Welcome back to the kitchen, everybody. This is your boy, the Man Chef, and tonight I'm going to show you how to make my absolute #1 favorite thing to order at any Mexican restaurant. Tonight we're going to be making chori-pollo. This is something that's very special to me, and guys, if you don't know what that is, you've come to the right place because I want to break this down for you. And honestly, it's a super huge crime and a shame that there are no really good videos on YouTube breaking down how to make this iconic Mexican dish. So we're going to do it my way tonight, and I'm going to try to get it very close or as close as I can to what I get at the Mexican restaurants here in my town. I've seen this served up a couple of different ways, but I'm going to try to replicate the restaurant experience that I had for you tonight. Also, we're going to be serving it with some refried beans, and yes, I'm also going to make those from scratch, primarily to show you that I can. We were also going to serve this with some Spanish rice, or Mexican rice rather, but don't be like some people and not realize that you have run out of rice before recording the video. So we're going to have to cancel that, but guys, I do have an incredible recipe for Spanish rice or Mexican rice in my chimichangas video, so there'll be a card floating around here and a link in the description. With that being said, let's get started. Before we can get to work on any of our chicken, let's go ahead and start talking about our beans. In this container is 1 pound of pinto beans that I've been soaking for the past 5 to 10 minutes. And I've picked out all the ugly ones because let's face it, y'all, life's too short to be flicking ugly beans. Got it? Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and put these beans into a pot of very salty water, and we're going to go ahead and put it over a medium-high heat. My hope is that while these beans are cooking, some of that salt will penetrate the beans and give them some extra flavor. All right, we're going to let this roll until it starts to boil. All right, it's been about 13 minutes, so our beans are finally starting to boil. So we're going to go ahead and set a timer for about 10 minutes, and we're going to let these boil on medium-high heat for 10 minutes, and I'll see you after that. Alright, and now our 10 minutes is pretty much up. So what I'm going to do is remove the lid from this pot, give these guys a really good stir, make sure they're all nice and mixed up and cooking evenly. And now we're going to reduce this heat down to medium, put the lid back on, and let it simmer for another 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, I'm going to just simply check and see if there's any kind of scum that rises to the top as these beans are boiling. I don't think there should be because I did wash them quite well. And if our boiling liquid is still clear by the end of 20 minutes, we're going to reset the timer for 1.5 hours, giving the beans a total cook time of 2 hours. 2 hours has elapsed, and now it's time to talk about frying our perfectly cooked beans. In the same pot in which we boiled our beans, I have some nice extra virgin olive oil heating up, and we're going to add those beans right to it. The boiling liquid was clear at the 20-minute mark as we had hoped, so there was really no point in seeing that. Now it's time to bring out our good friend, the potato masher, and talk about seasoning. Alright, so this is going to give those beans the classic taste we're looking for. In this container is 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper, half a tablespoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, half a teaspoon of cumin, half a teaspoon of oregano, 1 teaspoon of chipotle chili powder. I want to give that a good mash. Now notice I did not put in all my seasonings at once, and that's because I want to make sure every layer of these beans are seasoned. So I'm going to give this a few good mashes, season it up a little bit more, mash again. You get the picture. And then we're just going to continue doing this until all of our beans are at the right consistency. I want these guys nice and thick and perfectly seasoned. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a quick taste now that all of that is done. It tastes pretty good. I'm noticing all the spices. Everything seems nice, but it is definitely missing some salt. So we're going to go ahead and go at it with a nice pinch of kosher salt. Smash, smash, smash. Add a little bit more. Taste it again, and that's more like it. Now that this is done, we can go ahead and start cooking our chori-pollo. Alright, let's talk chicken. In front of me are 3 boneless, skinless chicken breasts that I've split in halves. And we're going to put them 2 at a time in this Ziploc bag and pound them pretty thin. I'm going for about 1/4 of an inch thickness, roughly. Now, I've seen chori-pollo plated up a couple different ways. Sometimes they're pulled or shredded chicken. Sometimes it's chicken tenderloins or strips. But the particular restaurant experience that I've had at both of the local restaurants, they serve it over chicken fillets that are pounded really thin. So that's what we're doing here. And so after we get done with all of that, we're going to go ahead and start talking seasoning. Now, I will tell you to go ahead and season these lightly because the chorizo is going to do the rest of the seasoning of the chicken. So we don't want to have anything over seasoned or overpowered. So in this container, I have 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1 teaspoon ground black pepper, 1 teaspoon of hot Mexican chili powder, half a teaspoon of smoked paprika, half a teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of cilantro, dried cilantro, and we're going to apply that very lightly to both sides of our chicken. Don't be afraid if you see any bare streaks or bare spots on your chicken. Again, less is more in this situation, because whatever the seasoning doesn't cover, that chorizo is going to take care of for you. That being said, let me explain this to you by showing it, so let's go to the stove. In a pan over medium-high heat, we're going to go ahead and start cooking off our chorizo. This is 1 whole roll of cacique pork chorizo. I hope I said that right, or close to right. This is honestly the kind of chorizo that I warned you guys about. This generates a lot of grease, and I feel like there's more of a grease-to-meat ratio here. And the general texture of this kind of chorizo is not my favorite. It stays stringy and gooey even after it has been fully cooked. This is not my usual Supremo brand, because Walmart has yet again let me down and discontinued it. Guys, you can use this kind or beef chorizo, but my inner Mexican will always choose the pork. And honestly, that's really what you're getting anytime you go to a Mexican restaurant. So what we're going to do is cook this down until it leaves behind all of its flavorful juices and oils in the pan, and we render off a few crispy bits, because we do want some of the chorizo to be a bit crispy. This should take about 5 to 6 minutes tops. Alright, now that our chorizo is off the pan and you see all that beautiful fond and all that chorizo oil down there, we're going to deglaze the pan with 1 tablespoon of lime juice. And once the lime juice has become fizzy and you can start working the stuff off the bottom of the pan, we're going in with 3 of our chicken breasts. Alright, now that they're in the pan, we're going to sear these guys pretty good for about 4 minutes. Alright, 4 minutes is up, and let's take a good look at these guys, and that is beautiful. You can see all that wonderful chorizo oil and fond just being seared into this crust on the chicken. Now this next side you might need to cook for up to 5 minutes, just depending on how thick or how wide your pieces are. I had a couple of mine that required about 5 minutes. So always check your chicken, and we're going to repeat this process until all of our chickens are done. And now that we're on our last batch of chicken, it's time to start the refried process of our refried beans, because if we didn't cook them more than once, they'd only just be fried. Got it? Alright, and once that oil is nice and bubbly, we're going to add in a generous portion of our refried beans. And to be completely honest, even after the first fry, I still feel like it's missing some flavor. I'm not sure if that's still from a lack of salt, or if it's because it hasn't picked up enough flavor because it hasn't been fried enough. The key to refried beans is it gains more flavor each time you cook it. So I feel like there's a strong possibility after these things are cooked again, they'll have the flavor I'm looking for. So now we're going to go ahead and start breaking this apart, getting it loosened up. We're going to do something a little different. First, we're going to add a little bit of kosher salt to this, get it all mixed in. But we're going to start hitting this with a little bit of water, and I tell you why. As it stands right now, our beans are a little too thick to work with. You can see it sticking to the spoon, clearly fighting me and just kind of scooting along the pan without really doing anything. The water is going to help loosen that up. And not only that, these beans dry out so quickly. The additional moisture will not only help the texture, but it will help it break down, and it will probably help the flavor as well. So we're going to go ahead and get that folded in little bits at a time. Same concept as whenever we're making sauces or baked stuff and you're adding wet ingredients. It's always better to add your wet ingredients little amounts at a time, so that way you can correct as needed, and that's what we're doing here. And now we have finally reached the right consistency. As you can see right here, this looks identical to any canned refried beans or refried beans you get from any Mexican restaurant. And so now that it's been seasoned and we've got some moisture in it, we've got the right texture, and it's looking amazing and smelling great, we're going to go ahead and get a taste of it. And guys, that is it. It picked up just enough extra flavor from the second cook cycle with another additional pinch of salt and some of that moisture. This is perfect. Now, guys, if you want to make it a little extra authentic, most Mexicans, you know, my father included, would cook their refried beans in lard. I don't really believe in cooking in lard. It's just not something I'm attracted to. It's very messy, and also it's extremely unhealthy, and I just like my olive oil. But if you want more of that traditional flavor, then yes, please use some lard or vegetable shortening. That's what kind of puts it over the top. But I'm not about to do that. All right, so the only thing left to do is hit this up with a little bit of queso quesadilla cheese. Now, in the Mexican restaurant, they use that white cheese sauce. But by using some melting cheese, some Mexican-style melting cheese, we're kind of paying a little more homage and respecting traditional Mexican cooking. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a lid that fits this small skillet. The idea is to let the steam melt this cheese. Keep in mind that this pan is now on a very low heat. So I'm just going to cover this up with a baking sheet to get the same effect. And now that all of our chori-pollo chickens are done, we're going to switch pans to a nice, large, clean pan. And then we're going to add all of our chicken pieces back into the pan over a very low heat. And true to the Mexican restaurant way of doing things, we're going to go ahead and smother the tops of all of our chicken breasts with that beautiful chorizo. And we're going to let it get warm again. And then we're just going to cover the top with that nice, beautiful white Mexican melting cheese. And once the cheese on the beans are thoroughly melted like they are now, this is good enough for me. We're going to switch this baking pan over to the pan with the chicken to get that steam action melting the cheese. And I'm also going to throw some tortillas up on top of this baking sheet while it's melting the cheese. So that way I have some nice warm tortillas. So I'll see you all at the reveal. All right, guys, and that is it. I am still a little bit bummed about the lack of Mexican rice in this dish, but despite all of that, we still put together an amazing plate of food. Would you just take a look at this? This is what I order every time I go to a Mexican restaurant, doesn't matter where. Got me a nice warm tortilla right here. Let's dig in. I think we did this some pretty good justice, and I think we broke it down better than any video that's currently out here on the internet. Chicken is tender. It's juicy. The chorizo ties in perfectly. And I'm crazy about these beans, y'all. Oh, shoot. I'll do it like I do in the Mexican restaurant without making all this mess. Get it all together. That's a bite. That's the bite. I can tell you now it's about identical to any Mexican restaurant. I think we've done it well. Now, I did like the touch that I used with using like a traditional style Mexican melting cheese as opposed to a white cheese sauce. I feel like it pays tribute to more of the traditional way of Mexican cooking. With that being said, I am missing some of the bite, some of the zest of that white cheese sauce that I use. So guys, if you have like any queso, I hate to suggest the stuff that's in the containers, like that you get out of the deli section that you have to heat up. But that's actually pretty good, and it's actually pretty dead on to what they use in the restaurants, but this is also good too. If you have something like that in the fridge, you can most certainly use that. I'm telling you guys, this is the way to eat chori-pollo right here. Again, if you try it this way, you're never going back to the restaurant for this again. Alright, so this is your boy, the Mad Chef. If you like content like this, please like, share, and subscribe. And this has yet again been another episode of Authentic Half Mexican Food. Cheers. I'm about to have me a good night.